I once told my wife that she was frustrating me, and she responded with probably the most frustrating thing you can imagine. She said, "I can't make you frustrated." But to the Stoics, this is totally true because we're responsible for our own emotions. Epictetus says, if you find yourself offended, realize that you are complicit in taking offense. Things don't upset us. We choose to be upset about them. I know that's not easy to hear, especially in this political climate. How can we not be angry about things that are unjust, that are frustrating? Well, this is exactly where the Stoics step in. It's not that they didn't feel anger. It's that they understood that the reactions we take when we are angry are very rarely ever helpful. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's episodes. The best Stoic strategies for helping you tame your temper. You think you're the first person to live in political dysfunction? You think you're the first person to live in a time when it feels like the world is falling apart? You think you're the first person to live in a time when people are shitty to each other, when there's demagogues in power, when it feels like stuff is falling apart? No, you weren't. The ancient Stoics lived in the time of Nero. You know, Socrates, he didn't live in the golden age of Athens. He lived in the time of 30 tyrants. He lived through a great power conflict. People have always lived in difficult times, but you know what they figured out? They figured out you got to focus on what's in your control. You got to figure out how to not let the assholes make you an asshole. You got to do good where you can. You got to remind yourself what's important. You can't follow every news story. You can't be distracted by every outrage. You can't extrapolate everything into the end of the world. You have to ride it out. You have to focus. You have to stay good and stay decent. And then you got to make a positive difference where you can. You can't give up hope. You have to stand strong. And you have to realize in times like these that there have always been times like these. And people got through it. And you will get through it. And it may well be an opportunity for you to be great, to be heroic, to make a difference. That's what you focus on in dysfunctional, crazy, scary times. There's a secret to not getting upset, to not getting angry, to not getting offended, to not being bothered, to focus. And it's simple. It comes to us from Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor. He said, you always have the power to have no opinion. He says, things are not asking to be judged by you. Don't turn this into something. The fewer opinions you have, the fewer judgments you make, the more you're able to just leave things as they are, the happier you will be, the more productive you will be, the more focused you will be, and the easier you will be to get along with. People tend to think Stoicism is having no emotions. But what I thought was so genius about Musashi, he's so transcended his emotions that he's able to use emotion effectively. And like, I think about this, like when a basketball coach will get a technical on purpose. If you think it's about stripping emotion out of things, maybe that is part of it, but that's like beginner level. That's like basic. But the real thing is to be able to understand emotions, process them, and then use them, or at the very least, understand other people's emotions and be able to use those emotions to help them or you accomplish what is supposed to be accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, the proper idea to me is sort of a lot of what I meditate about and is in Buddhism, where you're not trying to repress your emotions because, first of all, you can't. We are emotional animals. And if ever you have tried to repress your emotions, particularly in a state of meditation, you see you have zero control over them. You know, it's the way we're wired. So the proper stance is, I'm not going to repress emotions, but I'm going to understand them. I'm going to see them as they occur with a degree of distance. I'm going to see that I'm angry in this moment. I'm going to almost like I like to imagine it as if I'm like 6 inches away from myself. I don't know why that metaphor come up. But I'm
only 6 inches? That doesn't seem that far.
Well, it's out this side. It's like here. However, that's like more like a foot, I guess. And I'm looking at what I'm thinking or feeling from that distance, almost from the outside. And I'm still feeling it, but I'm seeing it as if it's as if I'm another person. I know this is a strange concept.
Yeah.
But you can observe your own emotions while you're feeling them, and then they don't have power over you. Then you can say, okay, I'm angry. Why am I angry? So number one, I recognize the emotion. Number two, why am I angry? Does it stem from something weeks ago, months ago, or earlier today? And then what do I do with my anger? Sometimes you want to use your anger. You want to channel your anger. So when you're in sports, if you don't have that kind of drive and that anger, when you're in a bet, when you're down by 12 points.
It's like an extra gear.
Yeah.
You can pull. Yeah.
There's a little bit of anger and even, I don't know, hatred or something. You just despise the enemy. You're going to crush them. You use that emotion. But as Phil Jackson said, if that emotion controls you throughout 48 minutes of a game, you're useless. You drain yourself.
Right.
You can't control it.
You also make mistakes.
You make mistakes. So you need to be focused, but you also need to be able to use those emotions.
When we lose our temper, inevitably, who does it seem to be with? It's not the stranger. It's not the asshole who's a bad driver. It's not the colleague at work. It's our family. It's the people close to us. We'll stomach some pretty rude behavior from people we don't know, but God forbid your son leaves his shoes where you told him not to put them. You'll be patient with your assistant when you have to repeat yourself, but if your spouse says what, God help them. It seems like a paradox, but really it's the problem of proximity. Precisely because the people are closest to us, we have more encounters, more interactions with them. The people who are bad are far away from us, but the people who are close to us, they live with us. Let's not be angry at good people, Seneca reminds us. It's strange, like the people who are mostly good, who love us, who put up with us, are the ones who get our frustration. And it shouldn't be that way. You have to remind yourself that yelling, getting upset, it doesn't make you feel better, and it certainly doesn't make your relationships better. Remind yourself how small your kids are. Remind yourself what your spouse has to put up with. The fact that we can get mad at someone, the fact that they'll put up with it, the fact that in some cases they don't have a choice, that's not an excuse. We should try not to get upset with anyone, the Stoics would say, but if we're gonna get mad, let's make sure the object of our frustration is a target of offense, not opportunity. People suck, they just do. Even if you just say only a tiny percentage of people suck, there's a lot of people, which means there's a lot of shitty people out there. And in fact, Marcus Aurelius opens meditations with a reminder of the kinds of people we're going to meet in life. He says, in the course of a day, you're going to meet people who are jealous and dishonest and stupid and annoying and frustrated. You're going to meet all these kinds of people in the course of a day, in the course of a life. So what do the Stoics teach us? They teach us that first and foremost, we should not be surprised by this. When we're surprised by it, then we're disappointed, then we resent it. If we understand that it's a part of life, then we'll be able to deal with it. But then second, the Stoics have their most important teaching. They tell us that these people are an opportunity. They're an opportunity for us to practice all sorts of good qualities, all sorts of good virtues. People are a chance for us to practice patience and toughness and empathy and forgiveness and understanding. They're a chance for us to grow and change and learn and be what we're only capable of being when we are being challenged, when we are dealing with difficult people. So yeah, people do suck. Life is filled with annoying people, but these people, they give us an opportunity. That's what the obstacle is the way means. That's who Marcus Aurelius is talking about in that famous passage where he says the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He's talking about those people, the people you wish were otherwise the people not looking forward to meeting. They are a chance for you to grow and change and be made better. They are a chance for you to practice the virtues that you are meant to practice. A person can change, but people don't change. You can change, but the world abideth forever. It is undefeated. It is exactly the same as it ever was and ever will be. This is what we see in Marcus Aurelius' meditations. His complaints about humanity are the exact same complaints we have today. People complain, people are dishonest, people are jealous, people are lazy, people are loud, people are people. We've been waiting on the world to change for a very long time, and it doesn't. This is why Marcus Aurelius reminds himself, don't go around expecting Plato's Republic. That's not where you live. That's not how things work. This isn't about being cynical, but in deciding not to be naive, we are setting ourselves up actually to be less cynical. The problem is our expectation. The problem is our false hopes. The problem is our delusions, and when they get shattered, then we get bitter and resentful. This isn't to say that you shouldn't try. This isn't to say that we can't make a difference. This isn't to say that we ourselves can't be a bright light amidst the darkness. No, that's actually the whole point. The world is going to stay the same, but we can change, we can improve, and still wisdom has to remind us that for the most part, this impact is going to be infinitesimal. Most of all, we can't take this personally. Most of all, we shouldn't set ourselves up for disappointment or disillusionment. Don't stay up waiting for the world to change. It's not not going to. If you want to see change, you have to be change.
Now, I love the quote by Seneca, we are bad men living amongst bad men and only one thing will calm us, and that is we must go easy on each other.
Yes.
To me, that's the great calming quote, because I think if I was to diagnose one of society's biggest problems right now, it's anger. There's a huge increase in reporting of domestic violence in Australia. I'm sure those statistics are across the board. Road rage has gone up. Also, every shop you go into, little signs saying don't abuse the staff. It's insane. We have an anger problem. Stoicism is so explicit in how you handle anger and how you stop yourself from becoming reactive. If there's one thing I want the world to take from Stoicism at the moment, it's just dealing with anger.
It doesn't matter how tough the situation is. It doesn't matter how worked up you are. It doesn't matter how stressed you are. Try taking a walk. There's a Latin expression, solvitur ambulando. Basically, it means it is solved by walking. Get moving, get outside, get active, go for a walk, let the mind wander as you wander about, right? The idea is it is solved by walking. They didn't have to make that comment. They didn't have to be a jerk. They didn't have to point that out. They could have done nothing, but they didn't. And so now we have a choice. How are we going to respond? We don't control other people, that's the idea in Stoicism, but we control how we respond. Epictetus said that when you find yourself offended, when you get upset, realize that you are complicit in taking the offense. Marcus Aurelius said, remember, you don't have to turn this into something. Life is hard, people aren't perfect, they don't understand how things are going to be felt or perceived by other people. They're going to keep doing this for as long as they exist. But we have to decide, are we going to go around being offended all the time, being hurt all the time, feeling slighted all the time, getting worked up all the time? We have control over that. And we can decide not to waste our time getting offended, getting upset. We can focus on what we control, which is who we are in response to the things people do and say to us.
You need to begin every day by telling yourself you're going to meet the person that's going to piss you off, frustrate you. I understood then that anger comes in many different flavors. And there's the anger that was demonstrated to me by my dad, which was yelling, and that's how you asserted power, was by whoever was loudest won. Or throwing things, or there's a physical demonstration of anger. Or there's the very passive, what I did, which was I grew up and I was this gangly, awkward teenager. I was never going to win a fist fight, but I will eviscerate you my words. I will cut you down. So there's the verbal anger. There's frustration, where I've seen it in my son, where if I get frustrated, I see myself in him. I see this mirror of myself. He goes, oh, come on. I'm like, you got that from me, 100%.
It's like A Christmas Story. Where'd you learn to curse like that?
Yeah, I couldn't tell him it was from them. Fudge, but only I didn't say fudge. I said the real thing. I realized, I'm like, oh, this is how I'm now imparting them unto him. And there's some things where you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
My phone is always with me. I'm on it too much. I try to use it less. But one of the things I'm thinking about is if I am going to use it, how can I use it productively? So instead of scrolling social media, instead of checking my email for the 1000th time, I'm trying to swap that habit for something that's actually adding value. And that's where today's sponsor, Masterclass, comes in. And with Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. They've got plans starting at just $10 a month, billed annually, and you can get access to over 200 classes taught by the world's best business leaders, writers, chefs, and more. With Masterclass, you get thousands of bite-sized lessons across 13 categories that can fit into even the busiest of schedules. You can learn to eat more healthfully and sustainably with Michael Pollan. You can build habits that stick with James Clear. You can check out my Masterclass about solving modern problems using ancient philosophy. And the classes really make a difference. 3 in 4 surveyed members say they feel inspired every time they watch Masterclass, and you will too. Every new membership comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there is no risk. And right now, our listeners can get an extra 15% off at masterclass.com/dailystoic. At the root of so many mistakes, the downfall of so many powerful people, it is what? It's anger. You never are glad you lost your temper, and in fact, you almost always regret it. One of the early Stoics advised the emperor, he said, whenever you feel yourself getting angry, Caesar, don't do or say anything until you've repeated all the letters of the alphabet. Meaning, take a pause, take a minute, don't rush into it, don't react emotionally, calm down. Your temper will not solve this problem. It almost certainly will make it worse. If you want to get pissed off less, if you want to be frustrated less, if you want to be disappointed less, if you want to have your feelings hurt less, you have to understand a very basic piece of advice from the ancient Stoics. And it comes to us from Epictetus. He says, it's not things that upset us, it's our opinion about things. The remark is the remark, and then we decide that it's rude. We have the expectation that it should go a certain way, and then we decide it's a bad thing that it went that way. We tell ourselves that we're ruined, that our reputation has been harmed, that we've been screwed over, that this is really bad. The event is, and then we have an opinion about it. Shakespeare said the same thing. He said, nothing neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. This is the most basic bit of ancient philosophy. The thing is objective. Our opinion about it is not. We decide what it means. We tell ourselves a story about it, which means we can tell ourselves a good story about it, which means we can tell ourselves no story about it. That's our power. If you want to be upset less, if you want to have your feelings hurt less, just remember this advice from Epictetus. It's not the thing that upsets us, it's our opinion about that thing. Whenever you find yourself getting angry, whenever you find yourself getting really worried, getting jealous, when you are hoping things go a really specific way, this is evidence. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, says that you're probably focused on something outside of your control. You are looking outside yourself. When you're focused on what's up to you, you're not thinking about how things are going to go. You're not thinking about other people. You're not worried. You're not praying. You're not pining. You're just focused on what you have to do. You are preoccupied with the parts of it that are up to you, which is how it should be.
So I think the main thing that I take from Stoicism is that rather than lecturing our kids, we should try and be role models to them. So if I want my little girl to be better at managing her temper, I should show her that I can do it. I should go there first. And actually I learned something from psychological research that helps me in that regard, because kids can't read our minds, so it's a good idea to use something that psychologists call the talk aloud technique, where I would kind of say, man, I'm getting really annoyed about this thing. I don't know what to do about it. I guess I need to take a deep breath and just think it through and look at it from another perspective. So by talking aloud about how I'm coping with a problem like anger or anxiety and overcoming it, that allows me to role model some stoic attitudes and skills to my kids.
The first thing you have to do is just not make stuff worse. As Marcus Aurelius says, how much more harmful are the consequences of anger and grief than the circumstances that arouse them in us? That was today's entry in the Daily Stoic. Marcus Aurelius would have agreed with the first rule of holes, which is that when you're in one, stop digging. Just don't make it worse. So often our overreactions, our emotional reactions, the way we take things personally, the way we despair, it takes a hard problem and it makes them worse. So today what I want you to do is just focus on not adding to your troubles. As Seneca says, I choose not to be a hindrance to myself. I choose not to complain about what's happened. I'm going to focus on what I can do with what happened. So the idea for the Stoics is we don't make our problems worse. We focus on what we control, how we can make them better, and we just get to work. Getting upset, it can feel cathartic, feel like you're accomplishing something, but in fact, it's not just ineffectual, it's totally illogical and insane. In his famous essay on anger, Seneca likens getting angry at someone or something to returning a bite to a dog or a kick to a mule. I think about that when I get angry at the TV remote. It's not working, and I slam it, and I go, I just punished an inanimate object. What the hell am I doing? This is actually the exact sort of epiphany that Seneca wants us to have. He says that we should look at ourselves in the mirror when we're angry and see how ugly and insane and deranged getting upset is. Actually, I carry in my pocket this coin we make for Daily Stoic, and it has a mirror on the front for this very reason. And it's to remind myself, as Seneca's advice went, that you should look at yourself in the mirror and see what an ugly, overwhelming, distortive emotion it is. It turns you into someone and something that you almost certainly would not want to be. Anyways, if you could use some help with your anger problem or the problems that anger causes you, head over to dailystoic.com/angercoin. You can grab one of these. We also have a really great course, the Tame Your Temper course, that I think pairs well with this. I know this has helped me in my life, and if you want 20% off your version of this coin, you can just use code ANGER20 in the checkout, and I think you'll like this thing. There's a real simple way to know whether you're making any progress in life, whether this philosophy stuff is making a difference. What the Stoics said was, how often are you getting in arguments? A beautiful person, a good person, Epictetus says, he doesn't fight with anyone. He said they know what's their affair and what isn't. And he says, when you know what's your business and what's not, where is the room for fighting? If Stoicism isn't freeing you from online outrage, from petty arguments, from being short with your spouse, from being a little less contentious with your kids, what is it doing? And I'm not saying that agreeableness is the goal of life. I'm just saying it is a sign of wisdom. I'm just saying that acceptance and tolerance and generally being at an even keel is a sign of wisdom. You got to be able to mind your own business. You got to be able to focus on what actually matters. You got to be able to be kind, to be patient, to be restrained, to keep an open mind. These are the byproducts of Stoicism, of philosophical virtue, and they're a sign that you are making progress in life. At the root of all of my problems, when I look back at my life, anxiety, worry, anger, fear, at the root of all of it was strong emotions that didn't end up making the situation any better. All the things I've been angry about, all the things I've been anxious about, all the things I've been worked up about, did it make one fucking shred of difference? No, it didn't. Marcus Aurelius says in Meditations, the causes of our emotions are often worse than the thing we're worried or emoting about. That anger makes stuff worse, anxiety makes stuff worse. When I look back at my life, I see how these strong, overwhelming passions, as the Stoics call them, the things that get us worked up, they weren't helping me. They weren't even avoiding the things that I wanted to avoid or bringing me the things I wanted them to bring. No, they were just causing me needless distress, needless worry. They were taking me out of the moment and preventing me from having peace, from having any stillness, and from being who I wanted to be. The people you don't like, the people who believe things you don't like, the people that believe things that upset you, you have to remember that they're not wrong on purpose. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius quotes Plato. Plato said, against their will, their souls are cut off from truth. It might not feel that way. It might feel like they are willfully wrong, but almost certainly they are not. Think about the dumb things that you have believed in the past. Think about the times when you were wrong. Did you think you were wrong at the time? No, you thought you were right. Marcus Aurelius quotes Plato. He says, against their will, they are cut off from truth. They're cut off from justice. He said they're cut off from the right path. His famous passage where he laments how obnoxious and annoying people are. He says, why are they like this? He says, because they don't know the difference between doing things the right way and the wrong way. And he says, when you remember this, it makes you more patient with other people. That was what Stoicism was designed to help him do. You can't change other people. You can't make them not wrong. You can't make them not annoying. But you can work to be more patient and understanding and empathetic to those people.
How do you deal with anger?
Seneca has a beautiful essay called On Anger, and he's talking to his brother, but he's really talking to Nero, and I think he's really talking to himself. Marcus Aurelius clearly has an anger problem, or he wouldn't talk about it so much in Meditations, a book meant only for his private use. So I don't think there's some part of the study of Stoicism that allows you to be anger-free, but hopefully we can get to a point where we do less things out of anger. So when you feel yourself getting upset, when you feel yourself being frustrated, when you have an emotional reaction, that you stop before you hit send on the email or before you throw the punch, whatever it is that you're about to do. So I think about it as making a distinction between having the emotion, feeling the emotion, which is natural, which is probably unavoidable, and taking action on the emotion, which maybe you have a split second to prevent. It might not seem like much, but it may well be the hardest thing to do in the world. In a time of dysfunction, in a time of conflict and division, amidst chaos and disinformation and misinformation, when cruelty and meanness are widely accepted, when the system is falling apart and it looks like the center may not hold, your main job, the most important thing you can do, is don't become a lunatic. Right? Don't let it infect you. Don't let crazy people make you crazy. Don't let assholes turn you into an asshole. Think of the Rome that Marcus Aurelius lived in. Think of Seneca under Nero. These would have been crazy times. These were dark times. Chrysippus, one of the early Stoics, said, look, if I wanted to be part of the mob, I never would have studied philosophy. I never would have become a philosopher. The point is, you have to stand apart. You have to not get sucked in. You can't let it break you. You can't let it make you despair. You can't let it make you crazy. You can't let it make you abandon your principles. You don't control what's going on out there, but you control who you are in here. You control who you are in this world. And the idea is to not let it affect you, to not let it make you crazy, to not let it make you worse. And that's the first step to making it better.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi. Yeah.
I want to say that your book, Obstacles the Way, helped me finish my master's thesis.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you for that. I want to ask you about when you know something or someone is like annoying you or whatever, but you can't accept that they don't maybe agree with you, how to kind of have peace with that and not let it kind of take your own peace away?
One of my favorite quotes from the Stoics, it's in Meditations. Marcus Aurelius says, "Remember, you always have the power to have no opinion." He says, things are not asking to be judged by you. Now imagine this is being said by a person whose opinion was literally law. He had the life and death power over people. And here he is reminding himself to live and let live, that he doesn't have to let things bother him. He doesn't have to try to change everything. He can just let some things be. And now this sounds like not much of a power. You always have the power to have no opinion. But how many people do we know that have no such power? I mentioned Elon Musk earlier. Elon Musk is a incredibly powerful, incredibly wealthy person. But has he ever had an opinion he was able to keep to himself? Not that I know of. It's a hard thing to do, to just shut up, to just focus on your stuff. That's what I try to do in my life as best as I can. Something I'm going through with my kids, I'll be like, oh wait, I don't need to have an opinion on whether this show is good or not. You like it. I like that expression, you don't have to yuck someone else's yum. You like it, so it's good to you. It's not something I need to convince you of otherwise. And so having fewer opinions is something I'm trying to practice and will be forced to practice over the next few years, I suspect. Your anger is impotent. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations, he quotes a line from a lost play by the playwright Euripides. And the line says, "And why should you feel anger at the world as if the world would notice?" Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. Your anger, your resentment, your grievance, you are shouting into an enormous void. You are yelling at an inanimate object. You are mad at forces that are so enormous, that are utterly amoral, completely indifferent to you and your existence, so you might as well let it go. Every day I send out one Stoic-inspired email to hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. If you want more Stoic wisdom in your inbox, you can sign up at dailystoic.com/email. It's totally free. You can unsubscribe at any time. We'd love to have you. dailystoic.com/email.